Hi, Sophie Andrell here. I am your host of BizMapPtbo. Welcome. So this is a little bit unusual. This is my office, my studio, and I wanted to just kind of share with you on this first episode of our third season what it's all about. So this is kind of behind the scenes, one of these I am going to share with you. Who am I? Why we started BizMapPtbo in the first place? Why we've continued it now for this third season a few years later. So I'm Sophie Andrell. I moved to Peterborough back in 2002 and fell in love with it right away. Right away. I moved up from Toronto, the beach to be exact. Love Toronto. I am quite the Toronto chick. Well, I moved up here and hadn't even camped before. I know that's kind of like what squirrel, but like who am I? Well, I met the most amazing man, and we fell in love. And oh boy, I'm not sure if I'm going to tell you this. I guess I will. He passed away in January of this year, of 2021, which is kind of one of the reasons I'm doing this BizMap. He believed in me. He always said, you can do whatever you put your mind to. And I believe that about everyone I meet, that you can do whatever you put your mind to. And that's what BizMap is all about, is helping businesses understand how they can be the best they can be in Peterborough, because we have the best support. So why am I doing BizMap? No one's paying me to do BizMap. I'm one of these strange people that when I see something and someone doesn't understand it, I want to share it with them. I want to explain it to them. And there's a lot of us here in Peterborough like that. So who am I? I'm just a girl who runs a marketing company in town in Peterborough now, and I love what I do. I'm not looking for new clients through BizMap. My slate is full. I'm looking to stay busy because when I'm not busy, I cry because I miss my husband. And it was a pretty crazy year. In March of 2020, most of the world were dealing with COVID. We were dealing with lung cancer. We got that news a couple days before COVID hit. So going and not going to the hospitals, not being able to, I could do a whole series on just that, couldn't I? You know, the emotional stress and what it's like having someone you love to pieces in the hospital during COVID. But so my husband was someone that just believed and loved the city and loved the fact that I loved the city. So why I'm doing it now is to help people who want to play, live, and prosper to choose Peterborough. If you want quality of life, let me just share. When my husband's, was first sick, we kept it a secret, obviously, and then as we knew what we were going to do, we shared it. And then as life became crazy, where there is just no time to, cook or anything like that, because you're at hospitals all the time, there would be food on my porch every day from people who cared in the city, like Susan Dunkley, and just arranged this whole network. And where these people came from were all these business people I've worked with over the years. And they all banded together, if that's a word, and made sure that there was a food schedule so that my husband and I could eat. We had New Year's Eve in the hospital. He was my controller. He was my geek in the company. He was my everything. He was my business partner. He was my partner. He was my lover. He was my best friend. So I was very, very lucky. We talked about everything all the time. So why am I doing this? Because through all that, you guys gave me so much. All of you gave me so much. All of my clients. Yeah. Anyways, so I think I've told you who I am now. I'm just doing this because I really, really, really believe in Peterborough. And if I don't stay busy, I will just melt into a puddle. And we don't want that. I stay fit. I try to walk 10 kilometers a day. I have a dog who you might see come and go. She's a rescue. I've always had rescues. I have a VW bus. Woohoo! And my husband introduced me to that. Before I met him, I had never even camped. And we've been down to Mexico twice in it, camping on beaches across the States, across Canada, hot springs, coast to coast, just really neat. So now I have my own VW bus, and I've been trying to figure out how to camp in it. So it's pretty funny. Because anyways, I'm more of a big city person, and now I just love to camp and I love to hike. I love being here in Peterborough because you can do that. I could be working and then the next second I'm on my kayak, either at Little Lake or on Eel Creek or somewhere, having an adventure with my own kayak. I mean, it's like 2 minutes away. You cannot beat that. You can't beat this city for the support you get from humans, for the support, the people, the organizations, and the environment. I just absolutely love it. So thank you. And I guess that's why I do this, is to give back. But today's one of those informal, this is what BizMap is. And so that's who I am, Sophie Andrell. And so why we started BizMap in the first place, there was a bunch of us back, I want to say 2004, was it, that we started something called Startup Ptbo, and a group of entrepreneurs and fabulous people that we each, kind of made our way to where we were on our own. And then you would dialogue with each other through a Chamber of Commerce event, and where you're networking, you realize you had so many similarities, and you got a grant from your Community Futures group, and you realize other people were into creating a different company and they didn't know about that grant, and so you're sharing that with them. Or you're hearing someone complain about they've got an innovation and they've got to go all the way to Toronto to get help, and I go, no you don't, you can go to the innovation cluster. So we realized people didn't realize all the support we had. And then you have these startups saying, oh, we don't know how to create our strategy. Have you not heard of our economic development? They have the strongest team in Ontario that can help you with your tourism business, your manufacturing business. I mean, so many different aspects. So we all got together, and there was a bunch of us, different hats. There were some retailers, some manufacturers, some service providers, accountants, and we said, okay, so Startup Peterborough, what we'll do is kind of make sure if anyone who's trying to start up a company in Peterborough has a question, they go to any one of us, any one of the community partners, and we identified who the community partners are, and they all will get to know each other really well. And so what I was doing at the time as well was volunteering on it's called EDCO, and they have a annual marketing awards. So for the last 10 years, so back then it was probably just 6 years, I was one of the judges, and I could see across the country, across Ontario, everyone's submissions for what they thought was the best of the best that their community did, whether it was from economic development, tourism, or the DBIA. And consistently, I saw Peterborough was doing amazing things. But I'd come back home and we weren't proud of what we were doing. And I thought, come on, guys, you have to compare yourself to others, right? And we are hitting it out of the ballpark. Why don't we just know it? So that's what Startup Peterborough, when I heard what they were trying to do, it made so much sense to me to try and help. And then those people, that were on that committee, such dedicated, strong people, and I'll be introducing to you to many of them as we go through the episodes as well.
Hi, it's Paul Bennett from Startup Peterborough. Why do I think Peterborough should be a location to start a business? Born and raised here, without a doubt it's one of the greatest communities in Canada. I've traveled all over the world and could be anywhere in the world, but I'm back in Peterborough. We live so close to the lakes. If you can start a business anywhere, why wouldn't you start it when you can be a half an hour from a dock? We have such a great community and a strong infrastructure and ecosystem here. It's something that we should all move forward to starting a business here in Peterborough.
Hi, I'm Mike Watt from Flavor Plus Boutique and SOS in downtown Peterborough. I'm happy to be involved with Startup Peterborough, hopefully to kind of get younger people started in businesses and give them a roadmap to try and find their way, make some smart decisions in developing their business. And for me, being a small business in downtown, those were two important perspectives that I thought the group needed. So my name is Cam Taylor. I'm one of the founding members of Startup Peterborough, and I'm a founder of a company called Outdoor Smart. People that are boaters may be familiar with one of our brands called Boat Smart. We license boaters for their pleasure craft operator card. So I'm proud to have grown up here on the lakes outside of Peterborough, built my business here. It's a great place to find talent, to nurture talent. It's a great network of business owners in town here. Peterborough is just a great opportunity to live, work, and play.
I'm Gwyneth James. I'm a partner in Cody & James, a local accounting firm. A lot of my day is spent sitting with entrepreneurs, and frequently they aren't really sure of what the resources are available in Peterborough, but they really have some great ideas and they need some help. I do what I can. Peterborough is a great place to live, work, and play, and it's the perfect size for a startup community.
Hi, I'm Sophie Andrell. I have my own online marketing practice here in Peterborough. Why Peterborough? Because the skill sets you can find in Peterborough because of the university and college are unmatched. I suggest you start your company here. Oh my goodness, I happen to be the chair of the Bears Lair. My vision there has always been to help entrepreneurs, but have all of the partners in Peterborough like the CFTC, the Economic Development, the Chamber, as you know them all, working together, and they are for the Bears Lair. But why I'm there?
Hi, I'm Michael Skinner. I really believe in Startup Peterborough. When you're an entrepreneur, a lot of times you're trying to control chaos. You're trying to understand an environment which is new, especially when you're in the innovation space. You've got a lot of questions. And especially as you start getting employees, you can't turn to your staff or your employees in order to know what to do, because at the end of the day, you're really the captain and you're driving that ship. So you've got a group of diverse entrepreneurs with different levels of skill as well as different experiences that can all come together and talk about how to get through challenges, especially challenges that may be specific to Peterborough.
So Startup Peterborough was, for entrepreneurs to understand, if you went to the Chamber of Commerce in Peterborough to ask for help, that's great. They can help you network. They can help you with policies. They got amazing membership that can probably help you develop your business. The humans that work there, like Stuart Harrison, knows everybody and everything in town. So cool, that's good. But what if you need funding? Well, you know what? They can share with you where to go if you need funding. So what we decided to do was the Startup Ptbo, we were just a bunch of entrepreneurs who knew Stuart at the Chamber. We knew where to get the funding at Community Futures. We knew if you were a real startup, you needed to go to the startup people that will help you out at the Economic Development team, and they can help you create your business plan, create your strategies, and they have different aspects and team members that'll work with you. And then if you were an innovative company and you were starting something that was more on the technology side or the innovation side, we have something called the Innovation Cluster. So what we wanted everyone to do, those groups, was to work together. And since then, they are one of the strongest communities across Canada in how they work together. So I don't know, honestly, what would have happened if we didn't start Startup Ptbo, if they would have worked together as well as they do now. I can't predict that. But I know what we did back then was we got them together for the first time under the same roof to ask them to communicate. Well, they've taken it to a totally different level where they are communicating. And those are the kind of people that I'll be introducing you to through BizMap, and that I introduced you to when we first started. So if you go through the first the first season and the second season of BizMap, you will meet a lot of the Startup Peterborough founders. So people like Paul Bennett from Ashburn and Realty. He'll be the first one to help you understand when do you buy, lease, or rent your business location. And then we also will speak to business owners like Gwyneth James, who's Cody & James, who built one of her new location, or Amy Simpson from Microwage, a good friend of mine who we were co-chairs on Bears Lair together and also part of the Startup Ptbo founders. She bought a new building here in Peterborough and one in Whitby, just I think a few months right before the pandemic started. But all these people sharing how they do what they do, how they've grown their companies, and the support they receive in our community. So that's why it's like a business map. So that's why we started it. The very first interview we did, I'll share with you, was Leslie Scott from Walton Woods Farms. So it's Walton Wood Farms, and she's an amazing story. We met her through Bears Lair. She was one of the contestants, and she won one of the years, and just so blown away by this woman. She was also on Dragon's Den. So the quality of entrepreneurs we have in this city are outstanding. So she was the first one we interviewed and said, so what did it take to come up with your idea? And she shares with you, and so you can see that first episode. It's on the website. You can see that first episode of Leslie talking about what it takes. So when I wrap up this season this year, I will actually bring that episode back, because the kinds of things she talked about are timeless. How to create your strategy, who could support you in the city, that hasn't changed. It's just become stronger, so strong, so amazing. So we have in this city, as I said, so many different groups that can help. So that's what I wanted people to understand through Startup Peterborough, which was this phenomenal group of entrepreneurs who got together and thought, well, what if these support groups actually were hosted or housed physically in one building? Well, they made that happen. Could you imagine? A number of them got together and they bought the building, one of the buildings downtown, and brought in for the sole purpose of having our innovation cluster, our community futures, and our economic development and our tourism all together in one building. So anybody comes to this city looking for help, or comes into that building looking for help as an entrepreneur, they are helped by the right group. It's powerful. And that's the kind of dedication that's happening here in Peterborough by people like myself, like other entrepreneurs who just want to make sure you're successful. And that's what this is all about, BizMapPtbo. So there's another organization, which is the Kawartha Family Business Association, and I love that group as well. So you'll be hearing from them as well. So in season 2, we had a number of different episodes just on family-run businesses in the area. So I thought, wouldn't it be nice to reach out to some of those businesses and to that association and see what changed for them during the pandemic, and then what changed for their businesses, what new practices do some of these businesses now see in the future because of the pandemic. So that's kind of why we're continuing BizMapPtbo, is to look back at the past year and a half, and I've invited business leaders, our team Ptbo, our community partners, like I said, together to ask them what their organizations did to help businesses during the pandemic, and then what they see as the new norms going forward after the pandemic. And then I've gone back to talk to some of the businesses that we spoke to in the first couple of seasons and ask them what changed for them during the pandemic, and then what they see as things that will be permanently changed in their industry post-pandemic. So you're going to hear from community partners, the resources in town. You're going to hear from people like Terry Giles, one of my favorite guys. When I first moved to Peterborough from Toronto, I remember for some reason I had the television on, and for some reason I was watching Peterborough Council. And I shouldn't say that. I was watching Peterborough Council. I want to know what was going on in town because I care. And I'm seeing this guy acting as mayor. I go, geez, he looks just like the guy I saw playing at Riley's the other night, guitar, the top 50s and or songs that were from the 80s that I absolutely love. And it was the same guy. I go, that's bizarre, right? When you come from Toronto and you're seeing someone that anyways. So this man is passionate. And as I mentioned before, I get to see what other DBIAs are doing across the country because I do a lot of digital marketing training for them, or I sit on the, oh, I think we're going to have a visitor here, or I see what they're doing based on the marketing awards that I get to adjudicate every year. Our DBIA is a leader in so many different ways. I am so proud of them. They are tireless. So when I met Terry to do this interview, and he's going to be the first 2 interviews that you see, he says, oh yeah, okay, we'll meet for 10 minutes, no problem. Yeah, we'll do it on Zoom. Okay. Well, sure enough, an hour later, we're still chatting. And I said, okay, so this is going to be two episodes, which was fabulous. And then I reached out to our Chamber of Commerce, Stuart Harrison, who is the most networked man in this city. And I said to him, will you be part of my interviews? And he goes, absolutely, of course. Any business idea you have, you run it by him. He is one of the wisest people you'll meet. It's kind of bizarre. So we are going to interview these business leaders. And as Terry was saying, Gail Morehouse, who is from our Community Futures, and we lovingly call her Gail Powerhouse, he calls her the money bags, because she has grants and loans that banks cannot give a business owner or an entrepreneur, but they can. And they have helped so many businesses through the pandemic, before the pandemic. So we're going to speak to her as well. And then our economic development, Rhonda Keenan, she is pretty amazing. I got to meet her years ago when I was working in the Durham region, helping them with some digital presence for their digital directories, business directories. And she was phenomenal. And then we got her here, and I thought, oh my goodness, lucky day. But I underestimated her. She has done a tremendous amount for our city. But each one of those support groups have a really rough task, because no matter what they do, people complain. So what I'm going to try and show you is how they've helped different businesses, and have the businesses talk about how they've been helped, and then have those groups talk about what they're doing to help businesses and how you can approach them. Okay, so it's like a business map. So you're going to find that we started it with that in mind, BizMapPtbo, and you're going to find now we're continuing it with that in mind. Plus, we're going to talk about, of course, how the pandemic changed things. And what I found was really interesting in all of the interviews that you're going to see, everyone has talked about how they now understand their clients better, even though they didn't physically see them. They had to really understand their clients, what their clients saw was the value in working with them, and how their clients wanted to communicate to them, and what products their clients really wanted. So the understanding of clients for those who succeeded through the pandemic became insurmountable. They really had to understand their clients. And another thing, the flip side, was they really had to listen to their team. They weren't seeing their staff anymore daily. So all of a sudden, being in touch with their staff remotely through Zoom became a thing. But not just once in a while, constantly. And that seems to be another consistent thing that you are going to find through the businesses who did well through COVID, who've survived COVID, and who are continuing with different business practices post-COVID. They were innovative. They with their staff and how they communicated to their staff, and they were innovative with how they worked with their clients. So just brilliant. So that's kind of some of the things we're going to be talking about. So who we're going to talk to? We're going to talk about Rob Cahill. He had a complete rebranding and repositioning of his company, Downtown Peterborough. One of the oldest companies, Downtown Peterborough, did a huge shift during COVID and will continue this shift after COVID. So I look forward to sharing his story as well. Matthew Savino, someone I very much respect, I wanted to ask him, what kind of questions are business owners allowed to ask of their staff? Are you allowed to ask your staff if you have a vaccine or two or not? Are Are you allowed to, like, what is it that you're allowed and not allowed to do going forward? And so those are some of the questions that we have and some of the answers that you're going to see from that episode. We're talking to then a couple of businesses who have been around for quite a while. So we're going to, and they happen to be, two of them happen to be my clients that we're going to be talking to next, which is Kawartha TV and Stereo. We're going to talk to Scott Stewart. Just celebrating, as I'm doing this recording here, they're celebrating their 50th year anniversary of being in business in Peterborough. So that's a long time. And of course, they had to do some pretty dramatic shifts, and I'm pretty proud of what they did during the pandemic to help us buy locally, even though you were buying online. Then we're going to talk to Chesler Shoes. We're going to talk to Kara. She is one of the owners at Chesler Shoes, operations manager, and so her dad started the company, and so I've been working with her for the last little while, and they have really spent a lot of time on putting product up on their website. So that's who we are, and I hope you're going to enjoy this season, and thank you for joining me.